Hello and welcome to another edition of Who Moved the Market. I'm your host, Surabhi Upadhyay. Now, if you've seen the market today, you would have noticed the big decline in the Mahindra and Mahindra stock. Well, let me tell you one thing first. We were telling you that this could happen, and it did. It was a CNBC TV18 exclusive story, and it got confirmed yesterday itself, that is on Wednesday. Now, what is the story that I'm talking about? Mahindra and Mahindra has decided to buy about 3.5% stake in RBL Bank. There are lots of different tangents to the tale. So without taking any more time, let me introduce my colleagues on the show. I have Sonia joining me, who of course has been tracking the company for a very long time. And for a banking perspective, because this is a very interesting development coming in from a business conglomerate, Latha is also here with us in the studio. So thank you both for joining in. You know, I think a lot of people probably took notice yesterday itself because this is M&M coming in. It's a large Indian group, and suddenly they want to buy a stake in a tier 2 or maybe tier 3 Indian bank. So let's start with the development first up. Latha, what did you make of it? It's a very small stake, right? Just about 3.53%. How did you view this? And I'm wondering if, how the finance community would be viewing this.
Well, the first feeling was, what will you do with just 3.5? You obviously want to do more. The press release clearly said that they're looking at 9.9. Now, I've looked at it extremely skeptically. Now, from the point of view of RBL and RBI, it's very good because the rules allow anyone who is fit and proper to hold up to 10%. Now, to judge whether you are fit and proper at 4.9, you have to go to RBI before you climb to 5. And if they think you're not fit and proper, say you are in the Panama Papers or whatever, I mean, whatever they consider, not fit and proper, accounts not above board, they can stop. But I guess that would not be an issue at all for a company like M&M. So they do go to 9.9. Now, RBI rules are very clear. You can't go
with
above.
RBI permission, even to go up to 9.9?
Yes, at 5, the first permission is at 5, the next permission is at 10.
Right.
So you go 10 basis points before that. Now, they'll be very happy if you're going up to 9.9 because the rules allow any entity which is fit and proper to hold up to 10, but not beyond that. Beyond that, up to 15%, only widely held and well regulated financial institutions like, say, the IFC or large pension funds are allowed. Mahindra will not be allowed under current rules. Okay. So the point was, what I was wondering, why are they doing this at all? It's not making sense because they can't do anything beyond 9.9. And even at 9.9, you may get a board seat, but Reserve Bank will be very carefully monitoring whether you are influencing the bank. Clearly, with one board seat, you can't. But I don't think the representative, as and when they come into the board, will be allowed in audit committees, nomination and remuneration committees. All the key committees, they will be kept out of.
Okay, so at best you can just be a strategic investor or financial investor.
Just like holding shares, that's all.
That's what it is. Okay, I'll come back on sort of the RBI mandate and thinking around this in a bit. But Sonia, I mean, the M&M stock has really shown a thumping reaction, right? And it's on the way down. Yeah. Some of it, I'm guessing, as Latha is saying, it's the confusion about why are you doing it in the first place. But what else? Why has the stock reacted so much?
So there are a couple of things here, right? One is, let's not forget that the stock has rallied about 30% in the last 6 months. It's been one of the best nifty gainers as well. The other thing is M&M has had a history of some capital allocation issues in the past as well, where they have invested in a lot of loss-making subsidiaries. They have invested in a lot of non-core assets in the past. But M&M addressed that very effectively in the last 1 to 2 years, where they got rid of all their loss-making subsidiaries. Of course, SsangYong was the biggest of them, but many other smaller ones in the aerospace business, etc. Now, this time, this came as a shock because, as Latha was also pointing out, we don't know the reason and they haven't explained the rationale as well as to why they're going in for this stake. It's not that RBI is even giving licenses to industrial or corporate groups for banking, right? So then what is the agenda? Since there was no explanation from the management and it goes completely against their own capital allocation policy. So last year, they came out with a proper presentation that they will look to get 18% return on equity in all their businesses. They came out with a strategy of A, B, C businesses. A is, of course, the companies that are doing well. B, the businesses that are maybe heading towards 18%, and C, the ones that are not. So they'll exit C and then sort of get B to A, etc. So they put that whole thing in place. and this is totally against that policy. So I guess a disappointment on the streets front on the capital allocation issues. The other thing is that the business is not doing that badly. I mean, the business is growing. The core business is growing very well. So in that context, on 4th August, you have the earnings coming out, and the street is going to wait for, of course, any more clarity on or granularity on why they're investing in.
I think there'll be lots of questions in that analyst call for sure. I mean, we don't have the M&M rationale on this at all. We'll have to wait by for it. But let's understand the lay of the land, Latha, in terms of what rules allow and what they don't. Like you said, right now any entity can hold up to 9.99 as an investor. But is it clear that you cannot have any sort of influence? I'm not even using the word control, but maybe influence or some part in the decision making with that board seat?
No, you can't. I think the Reserve Bank will, you cannot hold more than 9.99. That's the law of the land, or rather the regulation. How much you can influence is the way RBI supervises. And from what I spoke to senior bankers, they're very clear, they have a voice. If certain committees are not properly manned, the Reserve Bank Supervision Department can come down on you. But the bigger point is, when you speak to stock market aficionados, the argument is that maybe they're just strategizing for a future period when Reserve Bank may allow. After all, they have MMFSL, which is in the finance game, and probably this is a strategy for the future as and when it is allowed. You already have your foot in the door.
I read some, there was a lot of tirade on Twitter as well, and one of them actually responded saying, at least you should have bought it through Mahindra & Mahindra Financial Services, the financial services entity. But this has obviously happened, at the group level from M&M. But yeah, please continue. You're saying
I mean, if to those who say that perhaps it's putting your foot in the door, my sense is I don't think this door is going to open, going by the way Reserve Bank has behaved. As recently as 2020, there was a PK Mohanty committee appointed with several RBI board members, Sachin Chaturvedi and others, and RBI EDs in it. And they actually recommended that maybe we should consider giving licenses to conglomerates. This was a recommendation.
Business conglomerates.
Business conglomerates. Now, RBI in 2021 accepted 21 of the 33 recommendations. And the one recommendation that was not accepted was giving licenses to conglomerates. And RBI very politely said the other recommendations are on hold. But you look at their behavior. There have been several banks which have been in trouble, and they came at, on the eve of COVID or during COVID. You would give an arm and a leg if someone could put capital in them. For instance, Yes Bank. Reserve Bank went the circuitous route of telling SBI and getting each bank, all banks, big banks in the Indian banking sector, put in 200 crore, 500 crore, depending, pro rata, and provided the capital for Yes Bank so that it doesn't, if one bank capitulates, there is a domino effect. Everyone came in. It would have been very simple at that time to invite a conglomerate. Likewise, LVB. LVB also happened in the thick of all this. It would have been very simple at that time if you wanted to, have asked for a corporate. But they were ready to give it to DBS. A foreign bank was asked to come in and take over LVB. But they did not reach out to any of the conglomerates. And, Mr. Chandrasekharan is a member of the board. Ajay Piramal was knocking at the door and he was allowed for DHFL. You know that these people are hungry. They have, Tata Capital, KMB, Kumar Mangalam Birla has AB Capital, Aditya Birla Capital. They all have, and they've been knocking at the door. But
so they can set up NBFCs. But business houses can't set up banks, and that seems to be the
That's
process
a very big
right
difference. And we should all know the difference between an NBFC and a bank. A bank can create money. An NBFC takes money from a bank or from, whatever, debentures, by floating debentures, and only gives that as loan. Whereas a bank creates money, and this is very important. If you go to the bank for a loan, they are not taking Sonia's deposit and giving it to Surabhi. They just create a deposit in your name. That is, banks create money. That's the only institution all over the world which is allowed to create money. A loan creates its own deposit. And it is also the guardian of the lowest common denominator, the depositor's money. Like your money, my grandmother and my mother's money and my maid's money are all, put in their fiduciary trust.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of restrictions on who will get that license.
lots of checks and balances.
I have a question, right? I mean, if you go by all those conspiracy theories that eventually the larger game plan is to convert MMFSL into a bank and merge RBL into it, then, like Surabhi was also saying, why couldn't they just do it through MMFSL? Why did they have to use M&M's cash, balance sheet, and then that's the shareholders'
My
wrath,
guess
right?
is, it's about 1,000 crore, Already they've spent 400 crore and they've bought it at 197. Today the share is almost 245 or something.
It's not a huge amount of money. I mean, for M&M,
No,
it's not a lot of money.
1,000 crore will be a little big for MMFSL.
MMFSL,
If that's the idea. My sense would be that you want to make MMFSL bigger, put that money into MMFSL and make that a bigger
grow that,
NBFC.
exactly.
I am not able to see what advantage they will get by getting into RBL, because Reserve Bank will be very conscious to see that RBL doesn't show any partiality to MMFSL. Will they, buy their debentures or give them a line of credit at slightly lower than market rates? They'll watch like a hawk. You're asking for trouble. I don't think you're getting any advantage.
Yeah.
Also, I think from an M&M's point of view, I was just listing down all the companies that they have exited, all the businesses that they have exited. Of course, SsangYong was a part of the core in their core portfolio itself. But look at the others: Gyps Aero, Mahindra Waste to Energy Solutions, First Choice, Pugo Motorcycles. So a lot of these businesses were clunky and loss-making. So I mean, they were just sort of clearing that up, and now again this comes as a big disappointment.
And I think
guess.
shareholders have become savvier with the depth and width of information that's available. I think shareholders also ask a lot of for a lot of clarity, which is missing right now. I mean, just to go back a couple of days in time, when the ITC demerger news came through, one of the reasons was, okay, why? Please explain to us, why is this structure being followed? And I think M&M will have to do a lot of that answering, because right now everybody is kind of grasping at straws to try and figure out what the rationale could be, and
at the moment it's only a financial investment, and a shareholder public shareholder who has 48%. I think the M&M stake, the Mahindra Group's stake, family stake is I think 52%, if I'm not mistaken. The remaining 48% of the guys will say, if you want to only make a treasury investment, I mean, is this the best share?
Exactly, there could be so many other opportunities where you could look at
And, since you spoke about the numbers, I just want to say that there are, I mean, of course, people find reasons when the stock falls, but there are a couple of other things which are troubling the group as well. Tech Mahindra numbers were not good. Then, there is talk that the new EV, the XUV 400, although it did see 15,000 bookings, the response has not been as great as some of its peers in the EV space. So, a lot of these things put together perhaps is resulting in, and like I said, let's not forget the stock run-up has also been a lot. So maybe this would also be a reason for profit taking.
Trigger for profit taking. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you both very much. I think this was a very useful conversation. There are still a lot of questions that are unanswered, but at least we've put them on the table. So our viewers will be quite aware as they follow this story and the developments in the coming days.
Thanks you for having us.
All right. Well, with that, we call it a wrap on this conversation. Thank you for being with us. Remember, this is your date with us on our digital platforms every day at 2 p.m. See you again tomorrow with another theme.